Have you ever felt the sting of rejection so profoundly that you find yourself wondering, was it indeed you or just a moment of misinterpretation? Perhaps they informed you they weren't ready or they didn't feel the same way. But here you are, trying to find out what went wrong and whether there's any possibility they might change their mind. You are not alone in this. Today we are delving into something that might drastically change your viewpoint, the power of quiet following rejection. So remain with me if you have been struggling with emotions of rejection, wondering if you will ever attract someone who appreciates your value, or perhaps seeking to gain a second chance with the person who let you go. This video will show how silence can affect them more than you might realize, how to convert rejection into an opportunity, and how Stoic ideas might change not only how you deal with rejection, but also how others view you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and comment on what love themes you would want to investigate. More how to handle heartbreak, attract the appropriate people, or avoid the typical mistakes we all tend to do. Before we dig in, stay with me until the very end since the topics we are about to delve into might simply alter your romantic life. Let us now get going. The initial pain of rejection. Imagine, for a time, you are back to that very first sensation, the instant when you understood they felt differently than you did. Would you recall it? Perhaps it was a straightforward sentence, a glance, or even a difference in their response to your communications. It could have felt as though the world just became a little quieter, and that the air suddenly got heavier. The agony of knowing that the person you wanted to be with, the one you imagined endless talks and laughter with, just does not view you in the same light as nothing like. Still, let's probe that feeling a little more closely. Replaying every moment in your mind, analyzing every discussion, every joke, every smile. You might ask, did I miss something? Was I responsible? Should I have taken another action? Your brain is like a tape on repeat, and the ending remains the same regardless of how many times you run rewind. That's the sting of rejection, a personal sensation like something about you wasn't enough. Perhaps you felt you could move on fast, but then something would remind you of them. Maybe a tune you both liked or somewhere you used to visit. You suddenly find yourself right back in that moment, revisiting the disappointment and wondering if they really give you any thought at all. These memories stay, and occasionally they seem as a weight dragging you back into ideas of what could have been. They do not just dissipate. Has this ever been your attitude? Should you have, you are not alone. Actually, practically everyone has experienced the heartbreak of realizing someone they love did not share those emotions. One of those universal events that is both difficult to avoid and readily related to. Though it's not, rejection can sometimes feel quite personal. Many times we believe that if someone does not love us back, it reflects who we are, as if we are lacking some vital ability that would make us worthy of their love. But Stoicism teaches us something very important. Their rejection does not devaluate your worth. See it this way. It's not about getting them back every time you wanted to get in touch to check their social media, or even just send one more note. It's mostly about proving you were enough and affirming yourself. The irony is that whether people see it or not, you have always been enough. Sometimes we set others on such a high pedestal that it seems as though we are descending from the height we set them on when they reject us. Though the hurt of rejection is genuine, what if you choose to stand back, welcome it, and let it enable you to get stronger instead of letting it demolish you? Rejection causes us to question ourselves, but perhaps, just maybe, it's a sign to realize that our value isn't based on the opinions or sentiments of another. Imagine a time when rejection improves rather than defines you. Certainly it stings. Indeed, it starts you to doubt everything. But what if this marked the start of something strong, a means of education, a means of development, a means of redefining love to you? Sometimes you reject yourself, the one most in need of affection and recognition. Thus, keep in mind that it does not make you any less even as you experience the immediate sting of rejection. This chapter of your life is not the climax. It is rather still you with all your traits, your friendliness, enthusiasm, and warmth intact. The hurt of rejection is only a signal. It's a time to stop, consider, and recognize your value transcends the approval or rejection of one individual. Why silence works so deeply on the human mind. Let us explore something quite amazing. Imagine this: following rejection, you have chosen to go quiet. You stopped corresponding. You stopped being the first to communicate. And suddenly they no longer receive that consistent stream of interest from you. In a society when everyone is always connected, that silence can seem nearly deafening. But for what reason? Why does your quiet have such potency? Silence is weird, and the human mind is built to notice when something abruptly disappears. Consider the last time you really liked someone and heard from them often. You felt recognized and valued when they texted, phoned, even liked your postings. Imagine now that they halted out of turn. That absence would seem like a void, and you probably would start to wonder why. Silence, then, is the presence of inquiry, not only the lack of speech. This silent place you have created by drawing back is about them wondering what has changed, not only about them missing your words. People are naturally inquisitive, particularly regarding events that challenge the norm, and silence becomes such a useful tool here since it is not confrontational or hostile. Rather, it's a gentle prod that helps people to see your presence as something they considered to be absent. Perhaps, just perhaps, they are beginning to question if they let you go and made a mistake. Silence allows time for introspection as well. Constantly in touch, both sides are enmeshed in the noise of text messages, calls, likes, and replies. But once that noise disappears, one has room for contemplation. They begin to notice your lack of laughing, your phrases, your friendliness. It's like when your favorite song starts to fade unexpectedly after you hear it every day. Their memories of what they loved about it in first place come back to them in quiet. This stop that calm moment is strong since it turns the storyline around. Consider this. You were the one missing them, wondering endlessly what they were thinking before. Your silence is now guiding them toward the wondering. This change can help them come to see they are the ones who misplaced something priceless. There is a great truth in the commonly remarked observation that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Silence lets them remember you as someone worth missing rather than only as the always there friend. People often crave something they cannot have. Have you ever noticed? Stepping back makes you no more available on demand, and you suddenly become the riddle they cannot fully solve. We are naturally drawn to objects we do not quite grasp. You have turned into a riddle, a dilemma they struggle with night by going quiet. Therefore, consider again whether silence is only a means of avoiding confrontation or a way to suppress your emotions. Silence is about recovering yourself rather than about discounting them. It's about allowing them experience what life is like without you in it. And occasionally, that absence speaks louder than any words you could possibly use. Silence returns your power in the end. It helps people to see your importance, and should they be meant to be in your life, they will return not because of your words, but rather because of the effect of your silence. Silence is something like a mirror. It makes them consider what they are missing and perceive you as someone they really loved, perhaps more than they would have thought, rather than just someone in the backdrop. What silence signals to them. Imagine yourself as the one always reaching out, starting discussions, and making others feel important. But you have silence now. No more late-night texts, no considerate messages, no rapid responses. They can't help but feel as suddenly they are left with the area you formerly occupied empty. What then does this quiet indicate to them? Allow me to dissect it. Silence communicates a message more loudly than words. It indicates strength first. Silence indicates them you are not seeking validation or trying to prove your value to them. You seem to be saying, "I'm good without you." For someone used to your attention, that insight can be startling. I am not here to prove anything. They find you to be quite appealing, since they start to regard you as someone who understands their own value. Try to see it. People find confidence and independence appealing on their own right. You are no more the person they believed. They could keep on the sidelines when you become quiet. You suddenly seem enigmatic and evasive qualities. That would cause anyone to consider twice what they might be missing. Silence can be disturbing since it makes one feel as though they are powerless over the circumstances. They start to wonder about your lack of outreach. What is different? Have you located someone else? Are you glad without them? These queries make them urgent in their thinking and cause them to consider you more than they used to. Let us now delve more deeply. Silence also suggests limits. Going quiet is like drawing a line and saying, "I respect myself enough to give you space and myself some distance." It informs them you won't allow being taken for granted or treated like an afterthought, especially considering they have been used to your continuous availability. This is a strong statement. Their awareness of the effects of their behavior can cause them to change their viewpoint. They start to respect you because you respect their own time and emotions. The saying, "You don't know what you have until it's gone," comes from somewhere. Here exactly is what is happening. Your quiet suggests absence, and absence they cannot overlook. This emptiness reminds them of all the tiny things they used to take for granted: your laugh, your distinct viewpoint, your encouragement, even the way you made them feel significant. Silence accentuates the loss that has occurred. If they really care, it will not go ignored. This mirror shows them what life is like without you in it. Then this silence also suggests mystery. You leave people wondering if you failed to explain yourself, or hurry to justify why you have backed off. They are left guessing what is happening in your thoughts, which can be far more powerful than if you had enumerated every idea and feeling. The unknown appeals much to me. You become interesting when you can't read you like an open book anymore, because people are naturally drawn to things they don't completely comprehend. In a sense, your silence invites people to approach more closely in search of the solutions themselves. In this quiet, you are conveying to them that you are strong, independent, and ready to back off should they not value what you offer to the table. This is the beauty of it. This kind of quiet assurance requires their attention, not only grabs it. It causes them to reevaluate their treatment of you and maybe come to see they have missed someone quite unique. Therefore, know this: if you find yourself anxious about what your quiet is saying, it indicates that you are not someone who will linger to be selected. It's showing them that you value yourself, that you're strong enough to walk away, and that they have lost access to a side of you that added love and significance to their life. They may be profoundly shaken by this strong comment. Your stillness fills meaning rather than emptiness. It talks of limits, self-respect, and a quiet sort of force that words could never really express. Rejection as an opportunity for self-growth. Let's discuss something that might not be pleasant to hear, but might change everything. Rejection isn't always a dead end. If we are receptive to perceiving it that way, in reality it can be a portal to something amazing. Imagine for a moment that the hurt of rejection is really an opportunity to go deeply into your own story, to discover the pieces of yourself you never even knew existed. Not very likely either, but consider it. Every difficulty and every heartbreak can cause metamorphosis, so let us travel together. Consider yourself looking back on that relationship or that someone who turned away. You would have paid them your attention, your compassion, perhaps even your love, just to have a no or quiet in return? It aches really seriously. But instead of emphasizing that rejection is something personal, consider this. What if this experience were life's way of saying, it's time to focus on you? Often one wonders, what did I do wrong? Why was I inadequate? But what if your goal is to be the finest version of yourself for you rather than enough for them? That rejection could be the same thing that drives you to investigate who you are, what you desire, and what you are qualified for. You might choose to linger in that hurt, go back over events, wonder why, or utilize it as fuel to grow into someone wiser, stronger. Many people delve inward and find aspects of themselves buried in the backdrop of the relationship in times like these. Perhaps you come to see that you laid aside dreams or passions because you were overly preoccupied with them. Maybe you start to realize that you have been stifling your own development as you were waiting for them to acknowledge your value. Now, though, you are not waiting for anyone's permission. You are free to realize the person you have always wanted to be. Have you ever considered how some of the most incredible metamorphoses in people's life followed heartache? When someone says no, you find yourself suddenly full of the energy you would have been using toward them. You may now be pouring it back into yourself. This is the ideal time to pursue interests, hone your abilities, or even work on facets of yourself you have always desired to be better. This is your time for learning a new language, picking up an old pastime, or simply boosting your confidence. And now it becomes interesting. You will find as you start to mature that the traits you acquire, confidence, independence, resilience, become second nature to you. Those are traits that not only make you feel better, but also draw the kind of individuals who will appreciate you for just who you are. You feel less need to prove anything to anyone the stronger and more confident you get. Nobody can remove the basis you are laying inside yourself. Along with discovering what kind of relationships really satisfy you, this road of self-development also helps one spot trends. Perhaps in this process, you will discover that the individual you turned down wasn't really fit for your ideals, aspirations, or way of life. Though it is difficult to recognize at first, perhaps rejection is simply a means of guiding you to something better, to someone who really values you. Let us therefore recreate the tale of rejection. Let's view it as a call to action, a warning that it's time to concentrate on your own development, not as a failure or a personal fault. This is the beginning of something fresh, something that might lead to a wiser, more confident, stronger version of yourself than you could have ever known. The true road is about building a life you enjoy, with or without the approval of others, not about obtaining someone else's love. Ultimately, this encounter might be the catalyst that drives you toward your best version of yourself. Rejection defines not who you are. Your reaction to it does. Welcome this chance for personal development. Who knows? You might look back one day and see that this rejection marked the start of a road towards someone quite deserving of the amazing person you have become. Turning rejection into attraction. Imagine then that someone you know has turned you down recently. Perhaps it was someone you felt strongly about, someone you felt you bonded with particularly. It stings the stillness, the icy reply, or maybe even the straight no. One easily feels helpless, as if one has missed an opportunity. However, consider this. What if that rejection may really be the start of a new road, leading to a more confident, more appealing, more magnetic than ever before? Consider your first meeting with this person. Recall those first sparks, the thrill, and the tiny things that made you stop and consider this could be it. You paid them time, gave them attention, and perhaps allowed yourself feel a bit vulnerable. But it's time to change direction immediately, following rejection. What if you channeled that energy back to yourself rather than throwing all of it onto them? The magic occurs here. You start to create something quite strong-self-respect- by turning your attention inside. Though it sounds basic, you exude nearly impossible confidence. When you stop seeking and start appreciating yourself, imagine it. Those who are at ease in their own skin, who have a purpose, and who are not easily disturbed appeal to people naturally. You're not only getting stronger, but also more fascinating by backtracking and emphasizing on yourself. Consider things from their vantage point. The person who used to be always accessible for validation has suddenly quieted down. You are not freely sharing your attention right now. Rather, you are investing in your self-following interests, hanging out with friends, perhaps even working on something that thrills you. By doing this, you are no more the one hovering around. You are starting to shine in your own narrative, someone very involved in their own development and enjoyment. This change can be really potent. People start to see you not chasing. They can see the transformation in you, and the fortitude resulting from emphasizing your own path. This is especially true if the individual who turned you down starts to see you're not clinging on, and you're confidently moving ahead. They suddenly find themselves questioning whether they might have missed something, perhaps. Has anyone you know ever quit trying so hard and then started to look better? Attractiveness is about energy, not only about appearances or charisma. You preserve some of your energy for yourself when you stop giving all of it away, and that generates a strong, almost magnetic attraction. It's amazing how someone with a sense of self-worth makes others feel. Turning rejection into attraction, then, is not about attempting to make someone envious or engaging in gameplay. It's about creating a version of yourself that you're happy with, someone who recognizes their worth and isn't waiting about for someone else to recur. Closing. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.